This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Find great deals faster.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. This podcast is designed by real people on their journey to achieving financial freedom, and we'll focus on people who've either already attained it, who are joining us on that journey, or maybe a specialist topic that can help you build your technical knowledge to achieving and maintaining that financial freedom. We hope you enjoy it.
Right, welcome back to the Financial Freedom Podcast. Today is one of our technical episodes, and we're going to talk all things interior design and also a bit of staging as well. So today we welcome to the show Louise.
Hello.
Hello.
Louise Wynn.
All right.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you. Slightly nervous. Should I be nervous?
Yeah, you should. You should see the questions we're going to ask you. At the time.
Right, I'm buckling in.
Yeah.
Be prepared. But anyway, yeah, so Louise is she's basically a really great interior designer for property developers, and specifically in like what we call the small scale development space. So flat conversions, HMOs, service accommodation, things like that. And you also do a bit of work for like staging properties for great photography and sales and stuff like that as well, don't you? So,
yeah. I've got kind of two sections of the business. One is property staging. So for SME developers, for investors flipping one property, and for PLC developers. And then there's the whole design side as well.
Excellent, good stuff. So we're going to start off with a little bit of an icebreaker.
Okay.
And so from what I know is you just had basically a failed HR job or career, basically. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. I kind of, at school, I took a bit of a wrong path. I was told by my art teacher I should do art GCSE, but one of my very good friends was an amazing artist, and I can't draw for toffee. And I was like, I can't draw. Why should I be doing art? And I completely kind of got it wrong, thinking being creative is all about just being able to draw. So I didn't pursue any creativity and kind of just suppressed that, really. And I've always liked people and connection and that kind of thing. And so I went to uni, started off doing business studies, hated that, dropped out, wanted to leave uni. My parents kicked off. I was very compliant, then chose a completely different course, politics and philosophy. Then ended up in HR because I thought, well, I like people, so I'll do HR. And it's not about that.
It's a hard job.
Yeah, it's not about that.
You've got to be a certain personality. For that, don't you?
And I think when you're junior in it, it's fine. But then, I don't know, it just became really boring, really, all about strategy, and just wasn't me. And there was this creative person just like bursting to get out, but not really knowing it.
So why do you think your art teacher told you to take art?
Well, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other week. Like, you know, people have a origin story, as some people call it. Like, why do why do I love interiors? Like, what makes me do what I do? And it comes from like with it, and it comes from kind of my heart without sounding woo-woo and really naff. And it's not from a place of ego as in, I just want to make places look great and be able to say that I did this. It really comes from creating spaces that people love spending time in. And when I was little, I'm going off the HR thing, I'm trying to detract from the fact that I did get sacked from an HR job. But when I was
that was the icebreaker, wasn't it? You lost your job.
Yeah. When I was little, I used to love fashion, and I had a wardrobe. All my friends wanted to borrow my clothes. We used to go out and be like, why don't you wear this? Why don't you wear that? And it was kind of how I expressed myself creatively, but I didn't realize at the time. And I used to change my bedroom round because my bedroom was quite big, so I could kind of move it around every few months. So that was also me in my creative outlet. But fashion's quite egocentric. And then I discovered interiors kind of in my early 20s. And I was like, that's it. That's the thing, because it's creative, but it's spaces that everyone can enjoy. So
you're adding wealth and value to people as well, compared to possibly draining it by big fashion designers.
Yeah, true. But that wasn't kind of on my radar at all then. So anyway, I was in HR, not enjoying it. Then they said, we're making your job redundant. Here's some money. But I'd not been there for very long. I'd been there less than a year. So they didn't have to do any of that. I think they felt bad. But basically, they were saying, can you go now, please?
Right, yeah.
And I was like, shit, what are we going to do? So luckily, I had a friend who just started her show home design company. And I went to work for her. I was pregnant, very early stages of being pregnant. She was like, come work for me, go and have your baby. Then I went back.
Oh, good friend.
Yeah, totally. And I went back, and then I had another baby, and then I just continued working there for like 16, 17 years.
Continued having babies.
No.
I continued every year.
2 is enough. So yeah, and I just immediately, it was like this hallelujah moment where I was like, I found the
Something you're passionate
thing.
about.
We'll get the auto-tuner out for later for that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that happened in a very roundabout way. So I'm not trained in interior design other than, 20 years experience and great kind of on the job
really
training.
Funny to say that because that is a really funny statement, actually. And I was explaining to you why. My profession, project manager, I did 4 years at university. I learned basically nothing.
Oh, really?
In a way. Like, I obviously learn a bit, but like, that was a qualification, right? But then within 3 months of working in that job, I learned more than I did in those 4 years, which is technically, I could have done that and not be qualified or like that.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you say that because you think, I didn't do it at uni, so I'm not qualified. You've had 16 or 17 years experience, hands-on. You are massively qualified to do it, even though the university system didn't give you a degree, which might be a blessing in a lot of ways as well.
And I wish that you could have been around like 5 years ago when I was thinking, I want to set my own business up. I'm so bored. I've stopped learning. But I had that imposter syndrome and I felt really stuck. And I was telling myself, well, there's enough people already out there doing it. And, you're too old and you're not qualified and all of these things. So it took me. Yeah, totally. Was keeping myself really small. So yeah, it is completely true. Like that on the job is the best kind of training that you get. Yeah, degree apprenticeships, I think, are where they're at.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like with 40, so you're 14 years in here to an interior design
20
career. No, I mean,
when
you
then
were setting the business up.
No, set 16, 17 years.
Right.
WildKind.
You were thinking imposter syndrome. They're doing it for 16 years.
Yeah.
At what point do you think you become an expert in something?
There's the 10,000 hours thing, isn't there? I think I
do you know how many weeks that is?
No, tell me.
250.
Oh.
Yeah. It's 5 years.
Yeah.
If you did 40 hours a week for 5 years, you'd be doing you do your 10,000. So if you've done 3 times 10,000, what does that make you?
An amazing expert.
Absolutely expert.
I did have babies as well. I had some time off for that. So, blah, blah. But I think I realized because I was bored and I am obsessed with learning and developing. And that point, I was like, what am I doing? I'm just going to
a bit of a lull in your life. I think a lot of people can resonate with that.
Yeah. It took me far too long to do it all. But then I think, although that's not great in some ways, when I did start, felt like I had a rocket up my backside to just
really wanted to get on with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good motivation.
Starvation's a great motivator.
Excellent. Right. So I'll give you. So your business now, WildKind Interiors.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it's all right. There is meaning. Wild because I love color and pattern.
Yes.
And introducing it into projects in the right way for that project.
Yeah.
Kind because I like people to. I don't like trends. I want people to make slower, more careful, more informed decisions. Kind of to their wallet, kind of to the planet, because you make less mistakes.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear that back.
Yeah. Given that's before.
So obviously,
it's a very creative way of looking at the name.
Ours is quite creative. Property portfolio.
Yeah, it does what it says.
We do property portfolio building.
Invest multi-let. We do multi-line management for investors.
Yeah.
So I prefer yours. Yeah.
Right. So
the industry probably prefers your target client probably prefers yours, don't they?
Yeah. So tell me about what you do in your business, what you experience. You touched on that a bit before, and like what experience your overall team has in the design space.
Yeah. So interior design wise, it's slightly more complicated. Staging is an easy one to explain. You're dressing properties for sale, whether an investor or developer is renting those items from me or they're buying them, and you would only buy those if you were selling. Buy items if you were selling many homes.
Yeah.
You were going to be on site for months into years, and that's when that makes financial sense. And we come and we dress that property for sale, and it's those decorative items, so furniture, wall art, soft furnishings, and really bringing that property to life. And the reason that a property is dressed is because people buy with emotion, as you know, and you can't get people excited about 4 blank walls. People buy with emotion. I think it's something like 80 to 90% of our buying decision is all around emotion. And then that last little bit, if we're drawn in emotionally, is the logic that makes us go up, buy that thing. So you've got to get people on emotion first. And that's why staging works. And color as well is so important, because color is emotion. We process color in a part of our brain where we process emotion. So if you're showing people around a house with 4 white walls, they're not having an emotional response. 4 grey walls, as they usually are with property investors.
Yeah, it's grey and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
Typical, yeah.
And grey makes people feel detached and sort of despondent. So actually that's having a bad effect.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm really passionate about talking to people about, I'm trying to enlighten people about the value of staging, but the same about interior design as well. I was at Pin Hull last night talking to a group of people about why you should have an interior designer. I hate to use the word should, but the benefits of having an interior designer on your power team. And that's come from going around and networking and listening to experienced developers stand up and talk in the room about, here's my power team. And they've got a slide of like 15 different professions, from engineers and architects and planning consultants. And honestly, none of them have ever had interior designer on there.
It's one of my key points of my talk, actually, is to talk about it.
I think I've seen you talk, but it must be a new talk, Tim. I'm pretty sure when I saw you, it wasn't that talk.
I definitely talk about interior finishes specification being the one of the most important factors, which obviously refers back to getting an interior designer on the team.
Yeah. Well, I stand corrected. There's one person who's doing it at the moment, but so I was really frustrated by that. Yeah. So I
get the same frustration actually, because people talk about, and this is all over social media, they have a project and the first thing they say is like, I need a builder in this area. And I'm like, where's the project managers?
Yeah.
Manage everything. So I have the same frustration about it. Anyway.
Yeah, we probably all do, don't we, to some degree. And it's really interesting because people come up to me and they say, I didn't realize that was what interior design was all about. I thought it was picking paint colors and flooring and that kind of thing. So what we do is I've kind of said that it's I've got a 7-step process really when it comes to design. And we work on anything from, maybe there's a mill conversion, commercial to resi projects.
Sounds like a great project.
Yeah, it's fab.
That's been mad to do.
There's a bank that's being redeveloped into an apart hotel in London, an old guest house into an apart hotel in Windermere. So those kind of meaty projects, I work on those, and I outsource some of my services to other really highly skilled professionals. Maria Hatton, Maria, she's worked on your project. So she's an interior architect, CGI visualizers.
Really the drawings and things.
Yeah, so she works closely alongside architects at that technical kind of front end. We have quite a bit of crossover, Maria and I, in our skills in terms of speccing fixtures and finishes. And then I work much more on the sort of styling and the dressing of properties at the other end. So it works as a really nice kind of neat sort of offering for clients. So I've lost my train of thought now, but so those commercial to resi projects, it might be serviced accommodation, it might just be one property, and I'll work on the design for that. HMO design. So really any project where there is a developer who has the foresight to know that they need an interior designer on their team, they're the projects.
Well, I think either way, when you're doing a building project, you need everything specified. Yeah. The builder needs to build every element, so it's better to have that specified by someone that's make it look really, really nice and cost effective and stuff like that, than leaving it to chance, basically, is what I say to a lot of people. Because if you've not specified something, the builder's just made an assumption and they're just going to pick it, and it's almost as simple as that. And also the other key factor I talk about a bit is like, if you have the interior design all in place from the outset, so when the builder's pricing the works, if they're making assumptions and they're picking something that is boring, you're paying for something that's potentially a higher price because they're making the assumption, but they're delivering something cheap. Whereas if it's actually specified, they're actually pricing exactly what's there in a competitive nature, and there's no guesswork associated. So actually the pricing gets a lot more competitive as well.
Okay, good point. Yeah.
If we talk about price and specifications, though, I think it's really key. Because one of the reasons, I think we're going to push onto interior design designing value, but one of the key things is I think that it's underestimated on a cost value scale. I think that's the thing.
Using interior design
and even an interior architect, right? So because ultimately you're paying for a service,
So that service is a cost.
Yep.
However, the value can be very large, you know. So, and by that, what I mean is there's nothing worse than having to change a spec further down the line. Number one. So you've got a risk element that you and the builder haven't had the same conversation.
So I can explain this in very clear logic because I used to be a building estimator. So I used to tender building projects for a relatively large building contractor. If there was like, and I'll just give a simple example. Let's say there wasn't a kitchen specified. I would put an allowance in. I'd be like, right, $7,000 for that kitchen. Let's say the average kitchen was $5,000 anyway. So I'd have that in my quote. And then let's say the kitchen got selected at a later date and it was anything but the bottom range, I just would have charged a variation for it. So even though I've allowed £7,000, and rightly or wrongly, I'm telling you, this is what every building estimator does, a quantity surveyor does.
Yeah.
So let's say that price was actually $4,000, but you know, the client wouldn't know that you've allowed $7,000. And then, you know, the price was higher, I would charge a variation.
Yeah.
So not only you're basically paying extra for something that you should have in the first place.
Yeah,
you're already paying extra on the spec, and then you're paying extra again when you have to go back.
And the other builders I was quoting against would have done the exact same sort of thing. So, you know,
industry standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a disconnect, I think, in understanding a mindset between the value of it.
Yeah.
I do think that there's it depends what you're doing as well, doesn't it? Right. So I think it adds value at all levels, but I think the involvement of an interior designer versus a stager potentially has different impacts at different levels, because there is a cost balance to everything.
Yeah.
But I think that cost balance in today's world, where we've got all record time high prices, you know, but things are starting to struggle to sell, is like that cost balance is, well, if there's a 17% gap between on the market prices in general now and what's actually sold prices, then that value difference between those two things, you could say, well, if I get 17% more for my property because I've used a stager and an interior designer to help me, then that cost value is there. But it's hard to quantify that, isn't it?
Because
because it's part of one number.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't necessarily. Whereas it's easier to quantify it on the specification time frame. You know, so because you've got pounds, shillings, and pence. Yes, your standard white plug sockets over here cost you £2, but this one over here, which looks much nicer, costs you £2.05. And yet we know that if we do a night, if you're going like gold taps, or you're going up to like the highest specification, but the value of that property that we're going to estimate at that point, if you're doing it properly, would rise, and therefore you are getting the value there. And then it's just about quantifying the differences between the two, really.
It's interesting. I'm going to flip it back to you because I've got some thoughts on this as well. But like, where do you think the tangible ways are that an interior designer adds value, you know, to a project? And also, at like what time should people engage with an interior designer for their project? Is my question.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, you know, we work before often planning has even been approved. So, you know, this developer would start to kind of assemble their team, and we might have had some conversations. We might not have done much work at that point. But then as soon as they get that planning, it's all systems go, and we already have an idea of what's happening.
Also, sometimes you can actually add in because you do like mood boards examples. Sometimes you could add in like that mood board design with the planning application to support it.
Yeah, done that for the apart hotel that I was just talking about. Yeah,
sorry, just thought of that.
No, good point. Totally. So yeah, the sooner the better. And then once you're ready to go, you can hit the ground running. You're not wasting time. You know, we can do all the steps that we need to do in order to get that drawing pack ready, which I haven't maybe discussed. I started talking about a 7-step process and then I got completely sidetracked. But basically, we create a design intent pack for your trades. So your construction team, you know, when it's going out to tender, so they can price accurately, which is what we've just been talking about.
Let's do the 7 steps without descriptions. Right, let's do the headlines of the 7 steps. So we've got the 7-step headlines.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen here is you're going to start talking, and then either me or Tim are going to start asking questions. So tell me the 7 steps back to back, and then we'll dive into them in a bit more detail.
Okay, so the first step is a site visit. Really important. You know, you can design not from visiting site, but it's really important to do that. I'm digressing, aren't I? Site visit. Creative concept and sort of mini brand guidelines. Step 2. General arrangement. Step 3. Design development. Step 4. And then the fixtures, finishes and equipment FF&E schedule. And then finally, there's the drawing intent pack, the design intent pack, which combines some of the previous steps that I've mentioned.
Okay.
So that's kind of 7 steps. And then there may be an 8th step, which is staging if necessary, but not always relevant.
Yeah. Very good. General arrangement then. So we've done step 1.
Step 1, site visit. Yeah.
So you visit the site, and I think you touched on it before. So a lot of it is like getting familiar with the area, the outlooks and things like that.
Yeah.
I just know from some of the projects we worked on. And I think I know you talk about like sort of design themes and things like that, because sometimes different locations lend themselves to different sort of things.
Definitely. Sometimes the building wants you to do something very specific with it, such as an Art Deco car dealership in Morecambe. That really was crying out for you to sort of focus on a certain look and style. Whereas some, I might create maybe 3 different concepts and we discuss maybe which is the one that works best. Sometimes they get amalgamated, but going to site and standing in the space with the architect's drawings, trying to figure out things like, they've put a kitchen under the window. Well, that's not going to work because the windows are too low. Yeah. Is this the best placement for a bed? Or actually, is it better to turn the bed round on the other wall? Yeah. All these things we can start to think about when we're on site. And not only that, but going to the area, getting inspired by the area, and getting a feel, sometimes talking to locals, obviously getting a brief from the client. All of these things start to kind of build a picture of how the design, how those first initial creative concepts are going to come together. And make sure, really importantly, that it's a bespoke design for your development, because there's so much same stuff out there, because people don't want to spend on interior designers. They want to save money. They can pick paint colours and flooring themselves. So they think, well, why don't we just do that? Let's have a look at what, so-and-so's done that's in whatever mastermind, and we'll just copy that, which is why you get loads of dark navy walls with 3 other white, dark navy feature walls with three white walls. They're everywhere at the moment. Or you get, what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
But in the HMOs,
you're basically directing this at me before we got in touch with you.
The orange stripes on the ceiling and behind the headboard in HMOs. That's, I understand it. I get it.
It's exactly where you're getting with this.
One of our most popular rooms. I don't know what the problem is. I'll be honest with you. It's never had a void.
It's never had a void.
So
we've got to feel like that. But I think that is. Partly it's a little bit of a blocker for developers, isn't it? And it's a little bit about that cost to value mindset and how to, quantify it as well. When I look at interior design, I think like depending where you're at from a project perspective and like a risk cost perspective and stuff like that, sometimes that, from a developer's perspective, works out when we can hit the go button, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it could be in stages, like you said, it could be like, we'll do you a bit of a mood board for planning application, mm-hmm. and then we'll just freeze until you've got the planning approval, because at that point it's too risky.
Absolutely.
You fork out too much money that may not be usable. But then once the planning comes through and we all know what's going ahead, then we can re-engage, visit the site, like you said, work out all the bits and pieces and get it fully spec'd out. And the other thing is like understanding that it also saves a huge amount of time later. So I think in like the last interview we did today, it was like, how do you manage so many projects? And it's like, well, because it's systemized, because from the outset, everything's there for that building contractor to go and deliver that works as best as possible. If you haven't, drawn up all the drawings so have everything you need to build, or B, specified all the materials that need to go in those locations,
you're wasting time.
You're wasting time basically, because every time they go to put in something that's a finish, they'll go, Mr. Developer, what color do you want here? What type of skirting do you want here? What sort of doors do you want here?
I think the second you're going over a certain value, if you've not got everything specified and you haven't had it designed for a reason, then you are at risk.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And you might have the best, 3D animation board or whatever, but like the way that I would describe it, if you're listening and thinking about interior design, it's like you can get a 3D animator or an AI to dress up a room these days, right? But how would you find that paint? Where do you get it from? What's the specification number? Are there any competitor products? Is there a better option? Is it more price efficient if you do it something slightly different? This is where for me, proper interior design,
and that
starts. Because at that point, you can see tangible results.
Yeah.
And then where it starts to become really valuable is when at the back end, you're achieving the GDV that you set out that you budgeted for, or the sales price that you budgeted for, knowing that you were going for a higher spec design, right? So if you wanted to break it down into actual pounds, shillings, and pence, what I would say is, if the interior designer is going to cost you X, then they should be, let's say I'm not saying, don't want to give a number, but let's say it's a nice round number, just to say, if anything costs you £10,000, example, you need to get 3 times that return on investment to make it worthwhile, right? So depending on your cost, that's what you should be thinking about for it to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, your time influence and the disruption to your general flow and that kind of stuff, probably not that. So that's on a revenue perspective, but on a saving and cost and risk perspective, it's that again.
Yeah.
So it's down the chain as well as up the chain.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done those things, you can end up spending up to 6 times more, either in lost revenue or in risk cost contingency that you have to spend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then further to that, once it's all delivered, you know, is that product that you put forward actually what the tenants want, for one? And B, is that like a long-term sustainable product as well?
Yeah.
Because if you might have saved a bit on interior design and maybe the cost or whatever up front, but you could pay for it later as well.
Your handle's gonna last like 2 weeks because you got a fire door and it weighs about a gram or
potentially those are the sort of examples.
Yeah. But don't worry, your AI 3D modeler told you look good.
Exactly. So this does move on quite well to our next question, which is like, we've got a lot of property developers that listen to this program, and investors and things like that. So what are some ways that you look at designing to a certain budget and also, to try and maximize the GDV at the same time? What's some sort of ways you look at that?
I think it's important to have a kind of dialogue all the way along with the team, the developers team. So, maybe regular meetings, fortnightly meetings, to make sure that we're actually on target budget wise. That's really important. I think experience is a massive thing. Knowing what products are out there that are quality, that function well, that we just talked about.
It's a difficult balance, isn't it?
It is a really difficult balance.
It's not easy.
No. And knowing where you can add value in terms of the aesthetics that don't affect the price. So one thing for me massively is thinking about colour and really good use of colour. I'm trained in colour and design psychology. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's basically about how colour makes us feel and behave in a certain way. So I like to think I use colour in a different way to other people. Colour doesn't have to be like, wow, all singing or dancing. It can be very subtle.
You raise a really, really good point there. So from a property developer's perspective, paint, like the cost of it, whether it's a really, really nice color, compared to your basic grays or whites, it's very minimal cost difference.
But people get really overexcited about how that's extra few pounds.
Makes a big difference 100%. To the look and feel of it for minimal cost. Even as a quantity surveyor, usually, whether it's a color or not, they just average out the price. Anyway.
Yeah, and if you're looking at emotion, what triggers emotion? One of the key things is color, right? So, and if let's say you're living in a block of flats, or you're providing service accommodation in a block of flats, and you walk in the front door, typically when I walk into the front door, it's white. It's a fire door, and then everything's white. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh god, this is clinical.
So I can give you
the first second I walk in, and that's not even getting to the flat. That's the little entrance, to the property. And that's the standard finish that I see, because obviously we present around the country. The standard finish is grey fire door. And then you walk in and the corridors are all white and the carpet's grey. And that's service accommodation. So if that was designed better, my emotion when I enter is like, this is quite homely. And this is just a corridor. I can't wait to see the flat. What a different experience you're gonna have as you get to that into that room.
And then on the flip side, though, like the example I can give, so obviously you've done our HMO designs, but like if you just took like one of the bedrooms, so if you took, we've got walls there with color. We've actually got like some feature aspects which are actually just small timber battens that go on. That costs about 50 quid. And we've got 2 lights in that are about £80 each. So you're talking.
And they're not £80 each. They were cheaper than that.
Yeah. What are they? Do you know?
I think they're probably half that.
So £40. I'm thinking, labour and wiring. And
okay, got fair enough. Yeah.
The full cost.
That's where estimating meets design. Right there. Yeah.
So you're talking, and so that's one. Like you're talking like £200 or £300 of extra work, but the look of that, and that's just compared to a basic white wall. So £200 or £300 extra makes it look luxurious, doesn't it?
I saw somebody say the other day as well, and it's quite a well-known property person. He said, "Oh, no amount of paneling on walls or small kitchenettes is going to convince me that these are sustainable living spaces." And I was thinking to myself, I like feedback like that because it challenges the way I look at something. Then I actually take a step back and go, is he right?
Yeah.
And then, but everything in my experience of living in these places, even the little touches, like the little things on the wall, it creates shadows, it creates different color schemes. It's just little things that break up your room.
Well, that's
break up your
design.
living spaces.
That's design psychology. That having different patterns and shapes, and they make us feel something just like color does. Yeah,
maybe we need a little kaleidoscope type patch on the front of every window. Can project a little colour, like stained glass type thing.
It's very interesting you say the like the feeling with colour, because I've had it quite a lot actually with the current designs. A lot of people's just like the comment is, it's quite calming.
Oh yes,
that's loads of people have said that.
That is great feedback. That's what you want, isn't it?
That's I should feed that back to you. I'm like,
you're right. Like, oh God, I wouldn't have chosen that kitchen. But now I'm here.
Yeah. Those tiles.
The tiles are lovely. Yeah.
I really like
not the porous ones. The builders didn't like them. They had to go back and wax them.
But that was an alternative to the main design. So
yeah.
Stop the podcast now. This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Property Filter is the #1 property tool for today's property professional. It brings in all the data points and sources from all the property portals and auction sites into one convenient place. Then you have the option to overlay all the clever strategies found in the Property Filter blueprint to find motivated sellers faster. Now, we use it on a daily basis. It saves us over 80% of our time when looking for properties. And if that sounds like something that you want in your lives, please go to register.property-filter.co.uk/PPB, which is the discount code for this podcast. You will get 2 weeks free and a discount on your first month. That's it from me. Back to the podcast.
So, because an interior designer, it's obviously you're doing that work, but it's a collaboration with the team, isn't it? Because you've got
100%.
other people in the team, like the project managers, the quantity surveyors, and all these sort of people who their job is to deliver the project within a budget as well.
As
well as yourself that's part of the team. So that communication about because we've had to go back and forth even with our project managers and things of products. Actually, this product isn't that available anymore.
Yeah, products end and products start.
Products that were readily available. Sometimes supply gets rid of them or they stop being available.
Yeah.
So it's that constant communication to update and go, actually, with this product's maybe double what the previous one we did, so we can look at that or whatever. It is a bit of a collaboration, but ultimately by working together you can get that rounded approach between something that looks really great, functions really well, and is within that budget. And it's not easy to do, is it, as we know, working in projects. But by working together, that's where you get the end result.
And that kind of makes it fun. Yes, it might be amazing to have all the budget in the world, but actually it is really satisfying to create something when you've got to be really mindful of budget, which is where those tiles came from in the HMOs, trying to pick something that was well priced, but that looked really effective and quite dramatic, and that I haven't seen in another HMO. You have to sort of think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why I actually liked it a bit, because like you say, some of the new HMOs, they got people have copied whoever, so sometimes you just got that little bit that helps you stand out.
Quite a few actually use the brick that we used.
I know people that after that know us and have used it because they
You're
saw our photos.
trailblazers.
But I can't say, I just started using it because
it was cheap
when I was working. I was working in development, and they actually did proper brick slips.
Yeah,
really expensive, and it annoyed me. And I'm like, you can use a tile that looks similar, but it's much cheaper. So that's just how we started doing it. But anyway. So
I do like the bricks at the same time.
But it's all about teamwork, definitely. I would never be precious about something. I might want to fight for something sometimes. And then sometimes you've got to pick your battles, haven't you?
Like, as a developer, I want that. Right. Just so you and any other interior designer, anybody who wants to do in that space.
Yeah, it's just how
if you feel strongly that this is going to add value to this project, then I want you to fight that corner, because that's why we're hiring that person.
True.
So we're not there just to say, oh, just do what I say. You're literally hiring an expert to tell me what to do. So if what we're saying is wrong, you should feel empowered to say that.
Yeah, and there's fact checking as well sometimes, because what you might get is like a builder or a project manager saying, "Oh, we don't do that because we can't find it," or whatever, and it's like literally within like 2 phone calls, it's like, "I found a supplier that does it that rate. What are you saying?"
They just don't want to do something different.
The easy way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's true, but sometimes you just need a fact check and go, "Actually, I've just called the supplier and they said they will do it at that rate and they'll deliver it on Tuesday."
Yeah,
and they go, "Crap."
Yeah.
It is that thing about no offense to a decorator, but people often listen to their decorators, or what about this color? I'm not sure about it. Oh, I wouldn't use that if I were you.
Yeah.
It's like, don't take advice from me on how to apply paint the best.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. So decorators might want to work something that's like easy for them to order and collect. So if they're used to going to whatever Johnson's or something like that, and you specify something else, which is hence why Johnson's do mixing now, because they had that issue previously where people are like, "Oh, I want Farrow and Ball." And they're like, "Oh, you have to go there." Whereas now they just mix everything, because they're like, "We want to keep everyone at
Everyone mixes everything now, don't they? Ultimately, there is no sanctity and quality of paint anymore. You can just get anything you want from anyone you want.
Well, there is a variance in quality, obviously.
There's a variance in quality. There's a variance in colour. If we're going to be really picky, they're sometimes they're very similar, and sometimes they're quite off. So if it was for your own house, you probably would want to use the real deal. But obviously in a development,
because like Crown and Johnson's mix all the Farrow and Ball as an example. But you would see if you put them next to each other, you'd see a variance. You'd probably see it between properties. Most people probably wouldn't.
And it's quality. It's that light reflecting sort of materials. It's the way it's made that
there
is more luxurious.
There's difference in coverage and quality.
Yeah, they have a patented paint, don't they? That's the reason they are premium. So as far as I'm aware. So just to summarize then, I think although it is difficult to genuinely see a return on investment, it's easier if you quantify the elements of the job as a whole, because it's the same. Because the thing I don't understand sometimes is people look at an interior designer and they look at it as not the same as a principal designer or an architect or anything like that, which is because it's not a must-have.
Maybe architect's a good example, because a lot of developers don't realize they have to have a principal designer. But an architect, they go, "I have to physically have drawings.
I have to have that, because I need to meet building regulations. I don't have to have this."
That's exactly what it is.
This person has to just.
I can do it.
Paint colors on my building.
I can do it myself.
Which
is why educating about that piece up front, getting someone involved from the beginning. We take those architects' drawings and we think about, is that actually going to work? And you might move a wall. We had a scenario recently where there's a shower tray that you wouldn't be able to fit a proper shower tray in. So we've just got to move the wall slightly. Architects have a job to do, and they don't need to think, they don't have time or whatever it is to think about the interior and the space planning as much as an interior designer can. So there's that bit that's really important, and you miss that piece if you don't involve.
So it saves time, and it really de-risks it on site because of that reason. If everything's working, it's fluency and those sort of things.
Because those things are really costly to sort.
But actually, one of our panel contractors actually told us the other week. He said, my rates for you guys are, I can't remember what it was, 15 or 20% less than what I price, a typical other investor. And his 2 things were, obviously, I like working with you guys. I get lots of work. And the other one was just clearness of specification, basically.
Okay.
So that was not just interiors, but scope of
everything.
works, interiors, drawings, stuff like that. He's like, and you just don't mess me around. So that's a tangible thing.
It's accurate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the accuracy of it. And the accuracy of it does give contractors confidence, and you can get a better price if the contractor feels confident in what he's pricing. Otherwise, they're literally going to go, about less much.
You end up paying more for something less. Is the crux of it.
So then hopefully you get the pick of the best contractors as well.
Yeah, well, the thing that I would look at here on this, Louise, I would task you to go away and think about this in a bit more, if I'm honest. And because I think there is a way for you to quantify the value. If I said to you the cost has to be 3 times, I think you'd probably come back and say it's way more than that, in terms of like saving and value through specification. If you just added a value to the, like Tim said, well, let's say it's not 15%, let's say it's 10% more. Even that across a project of that's, let's say our build program is 650 grand, that's 65 grand, quoted differently because of that. So I do think there's an element that you could actually say, actually, this is what we find.
Okay, yeah, good point.
Because I did laugh at the presentation.
Yeah.
I did laugh because somebody asked you a question. To be honest, I just Googled it. I was like, okay, I thought that was good. But the honesty was perfect.
I know, and I've been thinking, oh my God, I need to actually have a better answer. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to quantify because everything feels a little bit woolly. It's all extremely valid and true, but you guys want numbers, so me doing a bit more work on that is valuable.
I think the genuine direct feedback is the things to take it from, and then you can have a case study for each one. So you say, well, don't just listen to me. So this is so on this HMO project for this client, they get 10% better pricing because their specifications are spot on. We designed the specification for the interior. So let's say we were half of that. You can work out that's on the spec side, and then from a value perspective, you can say, well, they're getting their properties are let faster, quicker, stronger.
Well, that was going to be my other point. Is like we could probably start to do some comparisons.
Yeah, 100%.
In similar areas between our old spec and our current spec.
We could have some rivalry over specs.
No, let's not.
Feels.
Well, I don't think that's fair.
It's not going to be much of a competition, is it?
That's not fair because, even though you say you weren't qualified, but you've had 17 years of experience plus doing the business.
There's always a good excuse.
About 20 years.
Tim's backtracking now. He was fiercely protective of that man.
But anyway, my big learning is that I did it too long, much longer than I should have as well. So.
Really?
And also it's a bit of headspace and time as well. So if you think so many people get into a property to free up time, so why are you then spending all that time specifying paint colors, picking kitchens, picking tiles?
Oh my God.
It makes absolutely no sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was one of those persons, but at least like
that item, you're doing a development of 10 flats, and that one item is no longer in stock, and then the next item is no longer in stock, and the next item is no longer in stock, and then you're on bloody Amazon and trying to find stuff in quantum, and when can they deliver it? And I'm just like, no, Lou, do you just have a look at this first place? So there is a time balance to it as well. Because creating that finishes spec is huge.
The other thing, and I don't think you mentioned it before, but actually interior designers also, because you talk to a lot of suppliers regularly, sometimes they can come up with bulk rates and special rates and things like that as well.
And some of my clients aren't interested in taking advantage of that because they just want to hand it over to their contractors. They don't want anyone else getting involved. They want them to just deal with it. And some do. So it just varies. I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of that, but
absolutely. Yeah, as long as it's available in there. Definitely. Right. So I want to finish off on staging then as well, because obviously that's one of your packages. So one of my I find it interesting in the UK that like people still have to sell staging as like a product because if you go like I've just sold my place in Australia as an example, it's not an option. It's just like you sell the property, it is staged, it's the cost for it. Because otherwise we don't want to take it on as an agency because it's too hard to sell basically. Otherwise, which obviously tells you a lot in itself, but there's so many properties that like if you go on Rightmove now and just scroll through like your area or where you want to live or whatever. That aren't staged.
Most aren't well presented or they're empty and therefore not well presented. Most properties don't look great. So imagine if yours does, how much more you're going to stand out. It's just completely bonkers.
And I think whether it's a buy-to-let HMO or whatever, because one of my big regrets, even like my early buy-to-lets I should have just got them staged, and you keep the photos for a while and you just want to maintain it in a good state that you can look at those photos forever. So it just blows my mind when people don't get professional photos or
and I think there's a lot of agents who don't use good photographers or they pay their photographers so badly that the photographer just points and presses and moves on and kind of overexposes all the photos, and that's not great. In terms of buy to let, so obviously maybe when you had yours there was no such thing as virtual staging. So for a buy to let, virtual staging can work really well.
So when you say virtual, is that get a photo of the empty space and then get it staged virtually?
Or vice versa. Get a photo that someone's living in it.
And
get it redone for
empty space. Take out the stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
What Jason did for 12 stations. Took all the cars off the road.
Yeah. That would have been a great one for the planners to show how many spare parts car parks.
So virtual staging works.
Very good point.
But because you're not going to make your money back. Let's say a physically staged property is going to cost you, for the smallest property, couple of grand or more, you're going to struggle to make that back as quickly because you're not selling, you're letting the room, you're renting the house out. But if you're selling a property, it doesn't have the same effect. And I don't mean to tell you what you already know, but you put a virtually staged property online, people get excited, and then they go and look round, and they are going to feel some level of disappointment because they're then looking around an empty property. So agents try and upsell virtual staging, I think, because they can make some money on it.
I can agree with that actually, because I sold one a few years ago. I think it was virtually staged, and it was empty. And I think a lot of the feedback was like when people were viewing it, which is hence that value of just paying that. And I was just being one of those cheaper investors, basically.
Instead
of paying a couple of grand for the furniture and staging to be there, I probably would have got an extra 5 or 10 grand.
I think there's a balance as well, which is so I actually think there's a good business model here for you as well, Lou, which is so one of the key things is I know quite a few property stagers, and their biggest problem is staging equipment, because you have to store it, and you lease it out or you rent it out or whatever it is, or maybe you rent it for somebody else and you rent it onwards, right? So I think there's an element of a centralized, or brand standard, sort of like staging where property stagers could do that. But from an agent point of view, I agree that the virtual staging and then somebody attending. But if you look at the some of the ones that they do in like America and stuff like that, where they do virtual staging, then their property isn't staged. They have the A4, A3 boards, and they have the images there, which is this is what it could look like,
right?
In the property. I think there's an element of that, so it's a lighter version. You don't have to get the equipment, but it's done professionally.
So it looks,
so rather than it be £2,000, it might be 500, to get all of that done. I think there's a really good opportunity for that with agents and stuff like that, because then they might recommend for bigger properties, nice properties. Well, I would stage this fully. I wouldn't do the board. You could have a product line and stuff like that. But then the freelance property stages, well, if you've got the kit, it's like a car, right? It's like it probably sits 99% on your drive, and then the one day you use it, you use it and it's really essential. But it sits there. So if you've got 99% sat there, you've got other people that can use it. Well, if as long as you've got a brand stand and they bring it back, then this could be another thing for you to have a think about, really. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I don't know why I think about these things, but I do. I was thinking about it before.
No, all good.
Yeah, interesting concept. Yeah.
I think we're through most of that, the questions I had anyway, but we asked you to bring some questions in for us as well.
Right, yes.
So I was very interested, Tim, because your brain definitely works in a very different way to mine. So this is maybe a bit of a random question, but if you had to completely change your personality, but keep one of your personality traits, what's the thing that you would hang on to and why?
Oh, interesting question. So what wealth dynamic have you done wealth dynamic testing?
Which one is that again? Is that the creator?
Have you done that sort of test?
Yeah, the creator star.
Yeah. Do you know where you sit on that? Your creative side. Okay, so you guys are probably more similar. So
and what are you?
I'm on the steel side. So I'm not completely opposite to the creator, but much different skill sets. Right. So I was more doing that so I could think about my answer, my response. So I'm getting rid of everything but keeping one aspect. So I like to think I'm like quite trustworthy and reliable. So can I use that as a thing to say, like, regardless of anything else, if I can just be trustworthy and reliable and just do what I say I'm going to do, I think that's the bit I'd keep.
I'd agree with that. I agree with that totally, because if you're going to get a number, even if the number is unhelpful to something, you'll give the right number. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, no, this is the number. Yeah,
I'd rather just do something right and trustworthy than bullshit and
it's probably one of the most consistent messages in our business, which is that's if the number's right.
Sometimes it's hard to sugarcoat, isn't it? Like you use as an example, but like sometimes you're giving someone the right numbers, but they might not.
They don't want to hear.
They don't hear it.
Yeah,
it's honesty and integrity.
And whether they wanted to hear it in 6 months' time, where they're gonna have to find it.
That happens a lot where we get referred business, don't we? We get referred. Oh, will you project manage this for me? Yes, but what's your appraisal numbers? This is it. Oh well, no then. Because you're way off.
Yeah, but our numbers are just our numbers are actually low and accurate. But they've just put in completely unrealistic numbers. But because they don't want to hear it, it's like, well, that doesn't work. And it's like, but I've just told you what's right.
Yeah.
And they are low because we've got buying power and these sort of things. So you're either going to find it out
the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are going to find it out the hard way if you don't do it this way, basically. But yeah. So yeah, that's my answer. Just trustworthy and reliable. Yeah. What was the specific reason for are you saying? Because
I think different? It is. Yeah. I just think it's that steel energy that you have. And I wasn't sure whether you would say something like that, which I thought potentially you would, or you would choose one of your more, I don't know how to describe it, but your more steel qualities, you know,
like knowing the numbers or something like that.
Yeah, and that you would hate to live life without them.
Or I couldn't live without a spreadsheet or something like that.
Spreadsheet and a pad and Tim is an element. Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
No, good stuff. Thanks for that.
And Phil, I feel like you are such a kind of cool, calm character, very confident. I'm just wondering if anything ever really phases you, because I feel like it probably doesn't, but who knows?
Does anything faze me? I do get. It depends on. I guess that depends. So it's feeling phased, I guess, is quite a situational thing. You know, do I ever feel phased in a situation? Like if it's a new situation, I don't feel phased in doing the new things. I don't feel phased in talking, you know, if that's what you mean, in terms of in front of people and stuff like that. But I do sometimes feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed when my plan when I don't have a good plan, or if I've missed my, I call them non-negotiable habits, but sometimes life gets in the way. So they're non-negotiable, but then life gets in the way. Like this morning, I couldn't do a proper walk because I was staying in a hotel on the edge of the M6. So your walking is limited by managing motorway. So I felt really out of sorts this morning. So I felt more phased with that. So I think I probably feel phased more intrinsically through my own emotion than I do extrinsically by external factors.
You don't really look like you lose your cool much. Even sometimes I think he's like, he's gonna go up here or something. He just never does.
I think that's a nurture thing though. So I think I would have been very different. I've done a lot of self-development on this. I try and be steady as well. You know,
you're pretty stoic with stuff. I think.
Yeah, well. I think steadiness is something I've practiced because I'm actually quite an emotional guy.
I've read your Facebook post. You've nearly made me cry several times.
Yeah.
So I know that you are.
I actually am. But the problem is that emotion has ranges. Yeah. And I can go really high and I can go really low. Okay. So I deliberately make decisions that try and keep me as steady as possible. Because if you are in a heightened state, then you can have that thing that triggers you. And my wife will tell you, you know, she's seen me in heightened states where the smallest thing has set me off, and then afterwards I reflect on that and I go, that's not acceptable, it's not in your value, and you know, I apologize profusely or whatever it is for whatever I've done. But in terms of like external factors, it's rare that something can affect me, something that goes against my values day to day that can affect me. You know, turning up at the right time and stuff like that, if I'm late or something, that really does affect me. And when you live in Manchester with a load of traffic and you live with a wife that doesn't understand time, then both of those things can that probably is it could be a little testing. But no, I mean,
that's a super interesting answer because you know, you talked about your habits and internally things you know, maybe throw you a curveball, and that's what gets to you. You like kind of structure.
Yeah, I think it's more keeping myself within that steady state. Really, is trying to understand.
You know what gets the best out of yourself, like on those things. Maybe
I think it's more. I think you got exactly that. So I think it is a practice. It's definitely practice because I know I'm quite an emotional person, and if you ask me a question and it triggers my emotions, I can't speak. I mean, my wife described me as, you used to be like this really like up and down guy, and now you're an absolute fanny. And I was like, is the way she described it. I was like, oh, it's not that. It's just that I try and stay in the range. I know where my range is. So a little bit, it's like, you know, not drinking alcohol and, you know, making sure I get my good habits on a daily basis. And these are all deliberate actions that keep me within a steady state. Don't get me wrong, the beast is in there, you know, because I was a rugby playing headhunter for 20 years, right? So I've done the things, right? I've had the highs, I've had the lows.
I think the steadiness helps in what we do, isn't it? Because like business and property throws you curveballs, there's loads of challenges, but like I think to do it effectively, if you are just steady and you
know what's good for you,
just sort of stuff out. And
my learned behavior though is probably one of my strongest things, because I've been in that heavy sales environment for so long, and I've had awful things, you know, business and life thrown at me, that actually there's very little that can happen that I would react to in the moment. Does that make sense?
Emotionally, you mean?
Yeah, I think so. If there's a hard conversation to have for any reason, for me, people would probably procrastinate over that for a long time. Mine is just, I'm just gonna have it now.
Yeah.
You know, because there's, you know, no time like the present, and they don't phase me. which is unlike, that is a behavior that is unlike, I don't know many people that really are cool about having really challenging conversations.
But you genuinely are good with
It's
it.
handy to have as a business partner as well.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't
Because
teach
the
me how to-
relief when you've done that.
Well, I don't feel the relief.
Right.
Because I don't feel the anxiousness.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
You know, so because it is just what it is.
If it's delivered in the right way, regardless of what hard conversation is, it's going to benefit both parties, really.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
Someone said the other day to me, you gotta move towards the discomfort.
Yeah.
And it's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like not shying away from it. And if you move towards
it's repetitions. You have to have the repetitions, and having to make 50 sales calls a day, 30 of them probably new business every day for a decade, is putting you into a very difficult mindset. But you very quickly learn that it's not about you, and that your emotion on that and what you're doing is actually holding you back.
I think that relates a little bit back to project management in a way, isn't it? When you get so many things that come up on a day-to-day, after a certain amount of time, you just go like, okay, you just do this.
Yeah, just
or it's just give me a budget for that. Whereas I remember like really early, I was like, you have like real highs and lows of it and like stressed out over it. But actually it's just like, well, no, just get a price from this guy for that. And
it's like
move on to the next one.
Yeah. A good example is recently, obviously on the mill project, the Labour government have brought in new policies and really punished a lot of the utility companies, haven't they?
Yeah.
The really
infrastructure upgrades and
infrastructure upgrades, terribly,
especially
unfunded,
especially
unfunded
for water stuff.
So we got a 50 grand bill.
An extra 50
grand bill. So not the budgeted bill that we had originally quotes for, based on that policy. So Tim rings me and says, it's gone up 50 grand. I can't believe it. And I was like, sorry, mate, we'll find it. You don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. Is what it is. We can't change it. We did everything right. Nothing's happened deliberately.
Yeah.
So all we can do is
still tell people about shit the policy is and stuff like that. But
and
it's frustrating. On that for years.
It is frustration. But being phased about that.
Yes, there's no reason.
There's
no reason to worry about it or whatever.
Yeah, but it's interesting it's interesting you think I don't get phased. I probably am calmer than most people.
Yeah.
When you're phased, I think you get a bit quieter or something. You see your mind ticking over. I think that's your way of.
I get distracted when I feel a little bit. I feel overwhelmed at times.
Yeah.
So you go internally to think.
Yeah, if I've got too many things going on, I feel very overwhelmed. Somebody will be asking me a question, and I'll be thinking about something completely different. That's when I know I'm. I said to Tim yesterday.
You don't answer. You're like, all right.
It's like Tim yesterday. It's like I'm going to see my mum and dad this week for 3 days. I was like, I'm getting to that position where if I don't take a break, I can't concentrate on what I'm doing because I'm so overwhelmed with so many tasks.
Yeah.
That I'm actually not being productive right now. But if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had that conversation, and I would have been very emotional. I've probably been at a heightened sense of emotion. So I've gone on about this far too long now, by the way. So let's move on.
My answers are always way shorter than this section of the podcast. That's all I can say.
You too, isn't it?
I think the one earlier.
Just realised how long I've been talking for, so let's just tip it there. Yeah, good stuff.
Right, we'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming on. I think there's a huge amount of value for our listeners. And
yeah, absolutely.
And if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for any of our listeners to get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram at WildKind Interiors, so WildKind Interiors. My name's Louise Wynn, so it's Wynn, WYNNE. My website is wildkindinteriors.co.uk.
And LinkedIn, I see you do a lot of really good posts on LinkedIn and stuff like that as well. So
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn a lot.
Get in touch with you there as well. But yes, thanks so much for coming along.
Lovely. Thanks, Dave.
Good
to see you.
Cheers.
The next one. Thanks, everyone.
Bye
for now.
Thank you once again for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. If you want to get in touch with us about today's podcast or any of the learning topics that we've gone through today, you can email us at podcast@invest-prop.co.uk or get in touch with us with whichever your social media platform of choice is. If you think you would add value to us as a guest on this podcast, you can please get in touch and let us know what you would be able to talk to us about. Other than that, we wish you well on your financial freedom journeys. And once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.